Hello, how are you doing? A warm welcome to The Real Talk. Thank you so much for sparing time to watch yet another conversation. Each time I look around and invite someone to the show, I do hope that this person has the kind of story that will uplift your spirit, the kind of story that will inspire you, leave you motivated and psyched. And I have no doubt that today's story will do that kind of thing to you. We are at Atmosphere Restaurant at Mythos Hotel in Kigali. Inside Mythos, there is Atmosphere Restaurant. I'll be telling you more about them. My name is Jackie Lumbasi. Let's meet the guest. So don't forget to use the hashtag #TheRealTalk. If you are online and you want to talk to myself and the guest, please do so. Our guest is Mary Maina. Mary, it's such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you for having me, Jackie.
Finally, we get to do this.
I know. it has been more of a talk here and there. Let's do this, trying to get the schedule right.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that at least we got some time.
Yeah.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a while. Good to see you. And you're doing some amazing work out there.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
How do you introduce yourself? What do you consider yourself? Because when I look around at all the things you do, I tried to look for a title and I didn't figure out which one. You're a social activist, youth advocate, sports development, I do not know what, or sports, please help me, Mary.
So I usually simply consider myself as a youth leader. In many aspects, because in everything I do, I believe, yes, it's more of using my talents, using the skills that I have, and also using the opportunities that I have to advocate and voice out the needs and more like priorities for the youth. So the element around advocacy of youth is really big on my end. Yeah. And besides everything else we know each other through in sports is similar element.
Yes.
But yeah, for me, I just consider myself as a youth leader, a person who's just with a conviction of serving.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Let's go back to where your story began. Share a little bit about your childhood.
Oh.
Yes.
You want to know the baby side of me?
I want to know the baby side of you and a little bit about your family.
Yeah, but for sure. I mean, I was born in Kenya, but not raised in Kenya. I was raised in Rwanda, but my early childhood was more in the southern part of Africa briefly, like in Zambia, but that was early childhood. I can't even reconnect the memories very well. Then my parents were in business, so they moved to Rwanda. So basically, most of my life I have lived in Rwanda. So basically my late childhood and teenagehood, adulthood, it has all been in Rwanda. We were living in Kichukiro at that time. So near, you know where Classic Hotel is?
Yes.
Below Classic Hotel, before there were like houses at that time. That was our first home before moving to...
There's still some houses there, like old model houses.
Yes, but the childhood home was turned into some business. Yeah, some business kind of environment. But that was my first home. Beautiful. Then we moved to Kimironko near Kigali Parents. So that neighborhood is still there. I usually go there to visit. Yeah. So I mean, when we arrived, because of course I was quite young. I started schooling, and my high school experience was more at GS Groupe Scolaire Après Ndera. I don't know if you know where that Après Ndera is. It's a very popular school.
Every time I see Groupe Escole, sometimes I go like Groupe Escole. I have no idea. Yes.
Yes. So it was one at the time, from the things I can remember, it was one of the few schools that had the English command. So because I had more of an English background, my parents were like looking for at least an English.
So they had both French and English. Huh?
Yes, yes. But at least they had the mostly English, but even French was incorporated. So when we started there, it was more of a change, because my younger childhood, it was more an atmosphere from the Southern Africa perspective, and now you have to transition into the East African kind of perspective. It was quite exciting. Now it starts with the language itself, and at that time, English language in terms of the the day-to-day kind of conversational kind of thing, it wasn't
popular.
That much. Yeah, but I mean, I'm glad I was young enough to start learning learning Kinyarwanda, and I had a very good group.
Beautiful.
But of course, because I'm lucky to have had that element of personality of interacting with people, so I got to learn really quick on how to communicate and stuff in those lines. So that was more like it. Then I stayed at Apred Ndera for like until my A levels, so I completed all my 6 years at Apred. It was a good environment for me, and when I finished the O level, I got good grades and I was given a scholarship. So I was given an option of saying, do you want to go? So I was called to Lycée de Kigali after my O level. And then our PTA said there's an option. You performed, you were the best student in school, so you could either
you actually
get
were
a
the
PTA.
best student.
Yeah, at the time.
Love
I was a
it.
go-getter.
Hello.
At the time, I was a go-getter. So that there's an option of getting a scholarship from PTA here at Apred, and or you can still go to the national school you were called to, which is Lycée de Kigali. So I weighed my option, and I was like, here they had a very good A level.
Yes.
And I was like, now I have an option. At Lycée de Kigali, there's a number of, I don't remember if it was 120 or something to pay. Then I was like, this is a good time to kind of negotiate something with my parents. So I went back to my dad and I was like, Dad, I need a word with you. Let's discuss. So I have two options here on the table. And I've been offered a fully sponsored A level by our PTA for my good performance. And I've been called to a very good school. But you'll have to pay everything and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, I'm lucky that my dad didn't really push in terms of would choose for you things to do. With my dad, it was choose for yourself, but make sure you see everything through. You choose whatever you want to do. I'll support you in it, but you have to see things through. No excuse for failing. Then I told my dad, now that I have this, I want to choose Apred. To go back to Apred. It was a good school. It got me flat A, so which means they teach well and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
As a way of raising that negotiation. And I told him, and in return, I would like you to give me 20% of what you'd have paid if I went to the other school.
You're asking for money.
20% in addition, but it does not remove the little pocket money you used to give me. This
that will continue coming.
Is reward for good work.
Okay.
So the negotiations went well. My dad being a businessman, and he's the one who always taught us to think in a very.
I'm sure he really loved it. He was impressed.
He was
like this is my child.
Yeah, like what's going on? So I continued through high school and then joined university at University of Rwanda in Huye campus, where I did biotechnology. I was a very science student all the way. Wow. Yeah. When we were going for university, I passed very well, the grades that would have gotten me to the medical school, but I had gone on a holiday. At the time, I was supposed to enroll for university. Then when I came back, I found that the period for enrollment
had elapsed.
for the med school had elapsed. I tried moving the mountains.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. Then I was like, okay, what else do I feel like I could do?
You didn't want to wait for like the next year? For the next opportunity?
And not per se, because at that time, being young, and also at the time, there was not so much into like career guidance like in school.
You're right.
That program was not there. Lucky enough, right now, there's more of that you could see. So the next thing that sounded cool at the time was biotechnology. Because it had some science into it, and it was tech, and it was the biology side. I loved biology. So I was like, yo, this is my thing. I love biology and stuff. Then I started working, studying it. And of course, I was doing that, plus doing other things like sports and stuff like that. But once I got to, when you get to the 4th year, before you graduate, we were required to go for a professional internship. Like, which was mandatory for you to be able to graduate for like 8 weeks.
It still is. Huh?
I bet so.
Yeah,
I bet so.
It still is.
So it was on the medical side of the biotechnology. So I was placed in the Hui lab and started working on it. But the time I started,
Mary, you worked in a lab.
I know.
You've won that. What do they call it? Dust?
Yes, I've owned one. I've owned one. You won't believe it. Because that was the area that I was studying. You see, by training. And I was really good at it. But that was the moment that I had a wake-up call. In terms of now, I'm translating what I'm studying into reality. This is the environment that what I'm studying would end me up to in terms of profession. I love the science of it, understanding things to do with viruses and all these scientific things. It was cool because it was challenging, and challenging worked better for me. But at that time, I knew the environment, it was too depressing for my kind of personality things I loved to do. And that is when I started kind of having self-reflection, because, and this is why I tell you right now that I know I have big passion for service. I knew that I can't thrive in a space where there are no people. I'm not serving people. Like I thrive when I'm interacting
around
with
people. Yeah.
When
you're serving. When you're busy.
And solving problems that people are facing, that I am facing, that everybody else is facing. That was more like things that woke me up and drove me really. That would keep me awake. So once the time I had that revelation, I realized that the health space, I've been in the medical space, yes, in terms of non-clinical kind of health space. I love the health spectrum of it, but it's more on the people side. So for my master's, I pursued public health.
So you finished your internship, went on to graduate, then you said you'll do something slightly different.
Yes,
for your master's.
yes. It's not per se slightly different. It's more like how about instead of being in the other side of the lab, where, so for example, at the lab, it's do blood testing. So when you go to the hospital, there's somebody who takes your blood to do a test. Now, that person who tests it, and deduces whether you have a virus, whether you're X and Y, Z. That was me at that time of the internship. But I was like, I think this is not working for me. I want to be on the front side, where how do I prevent this blood from testing positive for something or for any medicine? How can I be on the preventative side of it? Because that is the space that involves people, understanding the dynamics of people behavior towards wellness, towards health, and all this. That is how I branched to public health in terms of policy and economics of it, because it is thrilling. You're looking at what are the factors that affect people's health. So instead of being on the other side where I'm treating, because it wasn't that fun for me as an individual, as a person, it wasn't something that was keeping me awake. I was like, okay, dealing with people and trying to find the way of preventing, that problem-solving kind of aspect came in instead of trying to diagnose, bad news, you're sick. It didn't work for me.
From that explanation, clearly you're not someone who enjoys stopping on the surface. You look like a very deep human being, yeah? Do you ever have a scenario where you say, I've been given that challenge, I'll take it and I'll just do it as it is? Because to me, you sound like someone who will go over and above. Someone who loves to push themselves. Where does that really come from? Is it something that was nurtured at home by your parents? Is it you just being very confident, self-aware, and someone that just wants to see change and be part of the change? Because there's a saying that people just love to see things happening. There are others who want to make things happen. And there are those who stay on the side and cheer everyone else on.
That's a really good point in terms of the depth of things, because as I mentioned earlier, my greatest passions, what I've come to realize, and I'm glad that even though it was late in time, because some of these things you realize later as you go, as you grow. And I'm glad I still realized when I'm still youth, because from my understanding, others realize even later in life. The element of service and long life learning, those are two things that I've even come to terms with it. They're the things that drives the way I think. They're the things that drives my perspective to life. In simple terms, they're just the things that make me wake up in the morning and have purpose. Purpose for life. Because
that's lifelong learning and service.
And service.
Servanthood.
Yes. So just to serve.
Just to serve.
Yes, to serve. And you would see it in many aspects of things that I do, because in most of everything that I'm involved in, I know you know that I'm involved in a lot of things.
Yes.
It has been in the element of quest for, because service gives me purpose. It gives me meaning in life. I like leading my life in a way that a life that gives you meaning and gives you purpose.
Do you ever work for money? Because all these things that you do, have you ever gone for money? Because there are others who say,
money?
Just money. Like, you know what, I have been given this. I know I love to serve. But in this case, this deal is juicy because of the cash that I'm going to get.
Now, let me give you a small science that I don't want it to be very technical, but how I've come to resolve in terms of the money bit. The money should always be there, because one thing I've learned is that you can never compete with the basic needs of life. There's hierarchy of needs. And until your basics are covered, basically food, the basics of life, other things might not work, might not position themselves well. Now, what I try to do with myself, because I already knew that I cannot thrive in a space which I'm not finding purpose into, which I'm not getting meaningful life into. It has to be around service. What I try to do, I try to balance between my passions, things that wake me up things that don't, like I can't
sleep. Those that
sleep.
Excite you.
Yes.
Give you fulfillment.
That's the word.
Yes.
Things that gives me fulfillment and gives me meaning. Plus, then I balance it with things I'm really good at. Because there are those things that you're just really good at, and some of which is, public speaking, which I totally enjoy, no brainer. And that's why I MC like serially, because any opportunity to do that,
you go.
I love it, because there are things I'm good at and I enjoy doing, plus the things that are beneficial to the people. You see, now, beneficial to the people in a way of they're solving a problem in the society. Now, what does that mean? When you try to balance this, anything that is solving a problem to the society, definitely it is getting you to the money part of things. Because everything around the world, that if it's businesses are coming to address some needs that are out there. Thriving businesses are in that element. I work in the development space. And I enjoy problem solving as well. Like being a solution, trying to solve problems around the community. That definitely will bring you in money, because basically, like my day-to-day job, it's about building programs. The jobs that I work right now with USAID projects, it's about building programs that are solving problems
within the community.
Yes.
So
that is a career.
You're actually, as you said, the balance. You struck it. Yeah, you struck the balance.
Yes. And now the passion, where I love to serve, and this is why. And this is why right now you find that the way I select or the way I try to push for a specific career path, it's an area where I'm serving. That's the development space. I am serving, even if it's in a business space, but a business that is solving some social kind of issues. So that space, using the talents that I have, I do have a lot of public speaking and problem solving skills. I try to use them, and that's why I specialize in the programming side of things, building programs and running them. And also, at the end of the day, when you combine these things, you find that you enjoy what you do. By enjoying what you do it very well. Those are the things I've come to realize, and probably people have different experiences. But when you focus on things that give you meaning and purpose, you end up doing them very well because you can't wait to wake up and do
you'll
that.
be paid for doing things that you enjoy doing.
And
you're doing well.
Whenever you're doing it well, the money comes following you, because that's where the word expert and specializing comes in. And the more you do it, the more expert you become, the more money follows that, and it gives you meaning to life. So I've come to realize it is in that spectrum where I generally view, kind of try to view life in day to day. What do I do that gives me meaning, gives me purpose every morning? Because I know those are the areas that I thrive into.
We are taking a break. We will be back. The hashtag is The Real Talk. My name is Jackie. Our guest is Mary. We're at Atmosphere Restaurant in within Mythos Hotel. They are on Twitter at @atmosphere_KGL. Whenever you find time, you should check them out. We're live on RTV YouTube channel. Share the links that we have as many people as possible. Catch the conversation. Welcome back. This is The Real Talk. My name is Jackie. Our guest is Mary Maina, and you'll find her on social media, on Twitter. She's active there. If from this conversation you learned something or you have a question for her, please go there and talk to her. She's always available to respond. So, Mary, your story is a beautiful story. I see this young person that is driven by passion, which I love so much. So you wear all these hats. You're a Rotarian, you are an MC, superb public speaker. You're also into sports development. So I want us to go back. We haven't talked about Mary, the sports lady, and I want us to meet the captain. You know, ladies and gentlemen. Mary, who once was the captain of the national cricket females team.
Yes,
Did I put
Rwanda.
it correct? Yes, the Rwanda team. Let's go back to where that started. Was it at university? Was it at high school? When did the sports side of you come to life?
Well, I thought I was going to escape that one by acting as if no sports on my side. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up. In high school, I grew up just liking sports, just for fun, recreational. So I used to play, and don't judge my height. I used to play some basketball as well, but casually. But it was until when I was in senior 5, that's a year before graduating my high school, when I was just doing my usual jogging. I used to love jogging around the school field, football pitch. So on the same day, it happened that our school team, cricket school team, the female cricket school team of Apredendera, had hosted one of the national coaches, because it was one of the programs to visit some development program. So the coach mistook me for one of the cricket players.
You weren't?
I wasn't at that time.
Okay.
I was just doing my coaching. It was more like timing.
Yeah.
And I was just running, doing my things, and he was really mad. And what pissed him off, he thought I was warming up before getting even instructions. Your friends are here. They're waiting for instructions to warm up. You've already started. So by the time they were asking me, I was completely confused. The girls were laughing because they know, she's not part of it. But they're not saying nothing. So I said, okay, to cool things up, I'll just stand for a bit, join the team. And whenever he looks the other way, I'll sneak out. And believe me, that whole fiasco was the beginning and my genesis of cricket, because that first day I was put online, and he was really
So you were
calm.
not able to sneak off.
No. He set up everything, the tools, and he gave me a
Found your
ball.
position.
Yes, I remember it was a bowling session. You remember, there are bowlers and there are batters in cricket.
Yes.
So it was a bowling session, and it was my first time I could do this, and he could come. No, hold it like this. Hold it like you're doing a good job. So there was something about the way he was giving me even feedback at that time, and I was like, oh wow. Am I learning too fast this thing, or what?
Had he discovered that you're actually not a player?
So not at all, because he was not only the team they would discuss and were like, you know, they wouldn't even let him know that I'm not part of the team, and he was too pissed off. So I was a bit quiet.
Yeah.
So I continued, and everything faded away. The entire incident faded away. So I joined the team. They didn't mind. So I was learning. So during that bowling session, I kept on, people were kind of like, you're doing it nicely, you're doing it well, it's my first session. Then I was like, maybe I might be good at this.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that session because we had the laughter of the incidents. There are the girls back at, so some of them I knew them because classmates and stuff, dorm mates, some of them. Then boom, the next team I saw was asking, what's the next session? Can we have the next session, please? So I joined. So I continued joining the training session even after the coach left. Yeah. And in that season, I remember I made cut to the school's team that was representing Aprendera in the internationals, in the inter-schools.
Okay.
No, in the inter-schools. Yeah, so when I made the cut for the first time in the inter-schools, for some reason, I wasn't really good at batting. No. But my bowling was somewhat accurate at some point because I took a lot of wicket to a point that I got some awards at that time. I was the player of the match. It was my first season.
Wow.
And guess what? The same season, I was selected to come and train for under 19 women's training, just training, because they usually selected from inter-school competition.
Okay.
But I was really good at fielding.
Yeah.
You know, stopping the ball, putting myself there. I was always all over the place with it because I always believed in like anything I do,
yes,
A game in anything.
Yeah, you excel.
Yes, like even if in the smallest skills I have, I would try to put my best foot forward in everything.
Wow.
So I got selected for that, and before I knew, I was joining I got a cut also in the under-19s women's team, and that was the journey. That's how it started.
Amazing.
So when I graduated from high school, joined university, I joined
continued.
the women's.
Yes.
Yeah, the women's team, and in
and the national team. You were there now.
Yeah, the national team. That's when I joined the national team. I was selected for the national team as well. And I captained the team for about 6 years down the road, but not because I was the best cricket player per se. I think it is because now some of the leadership qualities, some people say sometimes leaders are born, sometimes leaders are made and all that. But I would say, yes, I might have had elements of leadership skills even throughout high school because I was a prefect and stuff like that, started nurturing at that time. But until I got to experience that and with practice through different leadership experiences, I think that it gets better with time. It's not just I wouldn't say it's all what it is just to have a talent. I'm sure even...
Yes, because I was going to ask you, because from where I stand, as someone who's played very little, I did a bit of badminton.
Ah, nice. Look at you.
Well, later on in my life, I did. And then I stopped. But I was on the school team as well. I didn't play for long. Yes, for badminton. And, you know, so we always assume that by the time somebody is made a captain, it's because they are super players. But what I hear you say is that it doesn't just take that talent. It's not just about your game on the pitch. It's a lot of other things that are considered.
Yeah, it is. Wow. As youth, sometimes we can kind of shy away from pursuing other opportunities because we feel like maybe it's not for us. I think it's more towards the the type of mentality that you have, and thanks to sports, I would say people have different experiences, and I appreciate that. And perhaps I was lucky going through sports. It gave me that awareness around, or it shifted elements of my perspective towards one, competition, towards what it means. Because in a sports space, it teaches you how to set goals, what to look forward to, and how to compete towards a winning goal. It might not end up, you might not, it's either winning or losing. Winning or losing, it's part of it. But that mindset is what makes the difference, Jackie. I feel like the element, the first failure is once you start putting yourself down, once you start doubting your capabilities, that is the first time you begin, because self-doubt, it keeps you away from feeling like you were deserving or you were able to. Actually, that's what I call failure. You going for an opportunity and it does not work, it's not a failure. Look at it as you've learned something. You always learn something. The next opportunity you go to with the learnings that you've learned from the first opportunity. But by staying back, it keeps you in a position where, I usually like to say, opportunities are there, it might be there, might be there, but they will never come to you. You
don't
have
find
to go
you lying in bed.
No. You have to go to them. And even though there are no opportunities, what can I do to create opportunities for myself and others?
All the years that you've been active in the different fields, was there a time a decision was taken against you or about you, and you felt it was an unfair decision? If ever that happened, how did you deal with it?
So, I mean, having growing up as a young lady pursuing sciences, like in my class at university, we were like a class of 8 women in a class of 50, 8 to 9 women in a class of 50, and in pursuing sports professionally, those were just a lot. At the time, it was very much male-dominated fields. So by definition, other than the support I would get from my family, many people didn't believe that it was a good idea for me to continue pursuing. They were like, Mary, even some of my aunties would be like, okay, Mary, you are a bright student. Why are you throwing out your life by pursuing sports professionally? Others will be like, uzabura umugabo, like, because
who will marry you?
Like, who will even look at you? Why? Then I'm like, what's wrong with me? And you're like, how do you do sports professionally? And as if that's not enough, you're even in sciences. Those are too manly stuff. So what I came to realize, there was a lot of, I would call resistance into this. But what I came to realize, because I had that element of, I really wanted to prove a point because of that experience. And I think looking back, if there's something I would advise my younger self, is just to take it easy. It is because like that meant a lot to me, because everybody seemed to be, other than my close family, many people seemed to be against it. And inside I used to feel like I can do them. I can do both. And I can still remain a woman. I'm a woman and it's okay to be one.
That won't change anything.
Yes. So I think it is more like these experiences happen to people in different stages in life, and it might happen to all of us. I think the difference is how we respond to them. It is what differentiates a person A from person B in terms of how you respond to such a, because somebody in the situation I was, the easiest option was to give up on maybe, especially sports, because it was seen as a time waster for my education and stuff like that.
And unwomanly.
Yes, and I would get, they would tell me, as an infundiko everywhere, and you're like, and I'm like, those are, stereotypes would be there, things were not. And the fact that, that idea of having to experience that, it is, I would say it was one of my derailing and my demotivating moment. But to some extent, I could, because I loved elements of proving point competition, something that
You
is
kept
competitive.
going.
So I was like, now I need to prove you guys wrong.
So how were you able, and back then and even until today, because you still do a lot of things. So back then you're in university, you have joined the national team, and I'm sure that's quite demanding on both ends. So how are you able to balance your time? How are you able to succeed at both? How do you continue to ensure that one side does not lose as the other one benefits? Because you still juggle a lot of things.
So in terms of balancing, you know, I try to, the way I am viewing life, it's more like I know that I believe that every day that I'm given an opportunity to live, it's not just for nothing. I feel like it's a responsibility. I'm like there's something I have to do about that opportunity for life that I have had that day. So I've always lived, try to maximize every single day that I live in my life. So it can be maximizing in terms of either serving people, either whatever it is, or myself as well. Of late, I've remembered the element of self as well. To be honest, I didn't have that before, and I don't know how I survived, thank God. I did.
We forget sometimes.
But it was very demanding. My course was like full-time course, and maybe to add to it, I had also a part-time job at that time. So what I used to do, I was really good. It gave me a skill of planning at a very young age, because I loved to do some of these things, and I put myself out there. So I had no choice than to learn how to plan. So what I used to do, my weekends were completely reserved for cricket. So basically I would travel on a Friday night, Friday evening after my classes during the week, Friday evening, come to Kigali. I know Saturday I'm training, or I have league games, because you know there is also national leagues that you need to play. Saturday and Sunday were reserved for cricket training and cricket games, whatever it was, for the national team. Then that Sunday evening, from the field,
you have to travel back
to Nyabugogo, get another bus, go back. So on Mondays, go to class in the morning. In the afternoon, depending on what it was, I would go for my side gig job, where I used to, you know, do cricket also as a messaging, sports for development aspect. I used to sensitize around HIV and AIDS through sports at the time, because it was quite high. Then in the evening, after my class, I would come back, get the notes of what they learned during the afternoon, and utilize my preps time to onboard myself on different things. So that was mainly my life in terms of that. I had to juggle all those. And in terms of what I do now, because I also juggle a few things here and there, some of the things I do are for self-care, because especially things that I enjoy doing. So for example, when I'm emceeing out there, those are things I love doing, and they give me a lot of, you know, it's more like therapeutic. Yes. So people are, when do you have time for yourself? Yes, I do have time for myself by going for things that I enjoy doing, small things that I like doing. That is even Rotary, because it involves serving.
Rotary as well.
I go for Rotary to serve. I'm also in the Pan-African movement, because leadership is one of the key aspects, because I believe a lot in leadership. And, you know, especially having brought up in Rwanda, where I see it gave me that perspective to leadership, where I'm like, okay, maybe leadership, it's not all the science we read in the world. I've done a lot of leadership courses, Jackie, and maybe to bring back that aspect of, because I like calling myself a youth leader, where it came from is that it's not about how I lead people. No, it's not about the title, because you're a head girl, because you're the captain, that makes you a leader.
What is it?
I came to realize it's deeper than that. It's deeper than that. It's what service do you bring to the people? What do you give to the people? What service do you bring to the people? Giving an example of His Excellency Paul Kagame, in terms of, you know, there's a lot of types of leaderships that are out there, titles that are out there. But at the end of the day, what's the purpose of having so many titles if the leadership style or the leadership you are taking, it's not serving the people. So for me,
So it's useless if it doesn't boil down.
Yeah,
to
for
serving the
me, I
people.
feel like after all the sciences we have about leadership, yes, there is servant leadership, dictatorship. There's all this. There are all those on the table.
Yes.
But for me, I tell people, what is the purpose of all the definition and the types and the
That we
science
have out there.
if it's not working for the people you lead?
Yes.
So I always believe it has to be defined by the context and the people you lead. So what are the needs? What are the needs of your people? What are their interests? And then channel your leadership through that.
Because the contexts vary.
Yeah,
it
contexts
matters.
vary and it matters. So I think that that aspect
that's amazing.
those are the new directions that I'm trying to, after understanding all this science.
And reading all those books.
I know, reading all this books. At the end of the day, it only matters if it matters to the people you lead. So
It's that basic.
it is as basic as that.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Let's have a look at 6 Qs. This will be quick, I promise. Yeah. Welcome back. A quick look at Mary's 6 Qs. Question number 1. Please be like one word. We fly through it.
Yes.
What is the best advice you've been given about friendship?
What I've been told
Yes,
about friendship.
Whether it's
what
choosing a
friendship is.
friend or maintaining a friendship.
No, especially about maintaining.
Yes.
I learned that it's a two-way street, and it is also work in terms of investments. Like you don't unless it's a two-way street in terms of you put in work, and the other side they also put in work. That's when sustainability comes about. And when I try to view on the friendships that I've had for a long time, I came to realize that actually it's true. Because otherwise one party would feel more like offended than the other.
Played.
Yes.
Question number 2, what do you do for self-care?
I think I mentioned about it a little bit.
And saying public
sometimes
speaking.
public
When you're
speaking
out there.
But also, I watch cartoons when I'm
You
tired.
watch cartoons?
I love cartoons.
There's a baby hidden somewhere there.
There's always
always a
in the
baby.
adult side of it. So I love cartoons. I love cartoons.
What one word describes you? A single word like this.
I've always described myself as dynamic, as the one word. But recently, I was in SA for a youth summit, and we had an exercise where they were like, okay, it's a secret ballot exercise. What word would you use to describe everybody in the room? So you describe each other.
And you got a new word?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And the biggest percentage of the word was either alluding to a leader or leadership.
For you?
That. Yes.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, maybe what people say, a leader,
Maybe
leader
that's it.
would be the word.
Yeah.
But I've always considered more like dynamic. Because I know like in everything I do, I like having fun at it.
Yes, but a leader is what you were born to be. No doubt. That's what your story tells. My next question is, what has been the highlight of your career?
That's interesting. Highlight of my career. Oh, yes. I think the highlight of I remember the highlight of the sports side of it. There was a time, the first time that Team Rwanda ever beat Team Kenya when we were playing in 2E8. When I was in under 19, that was my highlight. It was just something that has never happened in history.
Yes.
And for one game, allow that please to be my highlight because I
that left a mark.
It.
Yes.
But in terms of my school, where I spent a lot of time, one of the biggest highlights that yesterday we were chatting with some of my old school friends, and we were reminding each other about some experiences back in high school. And I remember some of my highlights was we used to eat beans, boarding school, beans and rice and stuff like that. But because I was in a prefect, we used to get access to the top layer. So I think that top layer thing
remains a highlight.
It was quite a highlight of my schooling. of my schooling time, because it was tasty at that
Yes.
time. However you think about
the
it
top
right
layer
now,
is something else.
yeah, however you think about it, we used to be, and I used to make a lot of friends because of the top layer. You know, because I had access to top layer as a
We all
prefect.
befriended prefects because of the top layer.
I know.
Oh my goodness. If you're between music and a book, you're feeling low and you want to, psych yourself up, what would you go for? Would you listen to music?
Music for when I'm feeling low.
Okay,
Yes.
great. And lastly, what would you say to your younger self?
Yeah. If thank you, Jackie. Yeah, that one I didn't see it coming.
Yes.
So I told you, like the younger side of me, I was more on the ready for, prove.
You were a fighter.
I was a fighter, and sometimes I look back and I'm like, what was I
was too
fighting for
much.
again?
Yeah.
But maybe, we need to appreciate. Maybe it's what made me who I am. I like appreciating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I was to tell my young self, like if I were to, the young Mary is here now, I would be like, Mary, you don't have to prove a point to people. Like, the first person and the only person you need to prove a point to that matters, it is yourself. And that ends there. I think that exhausted me as I was growing up, because I had to evidence why
You're trying to prove a point to everyone around you.
I will pass. But at the end of the day, if I was doing it for myself, I think I would have had. So the younger self of me is more like, Mary, focus on yourself, prove your point to yourself. Confidence, it's, build yourself, not because it's about everybody or what everyone thinks, but
Thanks
focus
for
on
that.
yourself. Yes.
Thank you for that. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Mary, you're the best. Thank you, my love.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
This was great.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you for making time.
Thank
This
you.
has been a beautiful conversation and I cannot wait to have Mary back. And I hope for sure. There's so many things I could recap. I'm not going to do that. I hope you have picked what belongs to you. This conversation might not serve 1,000 or 100,000 people that are viewing, but if it is meant for you, I hope that it will speak to you and do something to transform you. Thank you for your time, and we do hope to see you again next week. God bless you.